So serving in Nampa, Idaho, we fly out. The flight is about 45 minutes, and that's the first time I flew to Boise, but I've driven through Nampa and that area before, just going to the coast. So we got there, we met our mission president at the airport, I think, and he seemed super awesome. His wife, love her. I remember one of the elders was carrying my scriptures on his suitcase, a random memory. And just, I don't know, I was excited to be there. And my first area, they had a shotgun and pink wash. And so they put 2 new sister missionaries in an area, and my trainer had been out for 6 weeks. And that was kind of a struggle because we were both kind of helping each other, and we were in this brand new area with new members, and they just took the elders out, so they had sisters now. And then I think maybe a month in, they switched around the ward boundaries, so we got completely new wards and bishops, and so we were just totally, what do we do? And it was a lot of praying and really following the Spirit, because we're brand new, we don't know what we're doing, and there's not rules that say you have to do it this way and this way. I mean, there's a structure, but you just go with what the Spirit tells you to do. So I think that was my biggest struggle going out there, was my first area, just because it was all new, and my trainer was as new as I was, and we were just trying to figure out what to do as missionaries. So I grew up in Utah. Nampa is pretty similar to a normal city. We had a Walmart. We would go on P-days to shop, and there's a sugar beet factory, and that is the number one thing that I noticed when I got there, because it smells like burnt peanut butter to me, and it's always there, and I got used to it. And so when new missionaries would come in, they would mention it, and I'd be like, oh, like that's pretty normal. There's NUU, Nazarene University, and a couple high schools. What I loved about Nampa is it's part city, part farmland, because you would be in the city one minute and then the next year out in cornfields. And I love cornfields. I loved watching them grow, and then they would plow it down. And I just love that. So I think that's one of the things that I miss about Idaho that's not here in Utah, is all of the corn and the farmland. And it's so different. So when I first got to Nampa, the weather was horrible because it was winter and there was a huge inversion. But that was a bad winter, so it's not usually like that. The weather, it's pretty normal. You have the 4 seasons, and the summers there are great. I love them. And the crime there, I don't know. I think it's pretty safe. I was safe. There wasn't anything huge or scary there. The Idaho Nampa mission was formed in July 2013. So it takes in, it goes down to Kuna and goes up to McCall, and then over into Oregon to John Day and LeGrand, and then down to the border of Oregon to Idaho. And then I think that the church membership in Idaho outweighed not the church membership. In a lot of my areas, there was a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses and Nazarene schools, and they were the Idaho people are just so nice. Like, everyone is so nice. You knock on their door, and even if they don't want to hear the message, they'll be nice to you. They'll offer you water. They'll offer you your bathroom if you need one. It's like a secret place where no one knows about all these really nice people are. The ward sizes vary. I served in 4 areas. I served in 2 small towns and then 2 bigger towns. Nampa had about 80,000 people, and the ward sizes were pretty normal compared to Utah. And then I served in a city called Parma, and they had about 1,700 people. And that was different because I'm not used to a small farm town. And I love the people there. That's where I got to know the most people. And they're all so nice. But it was funny because a lot of people would ask me how many wards or stakes were in Utah. And usually we would cover, because in Parma we covered the whole city. That was just one stake. And it was so weird because in Utah, a whole stake is such a little, it's like 8 blocks. I don't know. So it was so different, and it was cool to talk to the members about the differences about that. In the Nampa mission, we don't have any temples, but it's right by the Boise mission, which has the Boise temple, and they're building the Meridian temple right now. And so they're going to have 2 temples. But we were able to go at our halfway mark, and when we went home, and then also if one of our converts was going through the temple, we were allowed to go with them. I think we worked with a lot of members, building their trust. We would work with investigators and a lot of less active members. It depended on the area, but we did a lot of retention work, just trying to keep members active and helping them make friendships in the wards, and doing a lot of activities with the youth because they're more excited, and I feel like they have more of a desire to share the gospel, and it's easier because they have all those friends and influences around them. In the mission field, we have English missionaries and we have Spanish missionaries, and at one time it was kind of split, the Spanish zones and the English zones, but when our mission kind of developed, I guess, we changed that and kind of merged them together. And I like that a lot better because we were able to interact with the Spanish missionaries and refer people their way, and we would understand, I don't know, kind of their missionary work. And it's a little bit different, but it's all the same wherever you go, trying to teach the gospel to people who they don't know. And I think it was good that they merged that because I felt more unified as missionaries, and we were able to help each other out. So I served in the Idaho Nampa mission from I went into the MTC December 2013, and then my first area was Middleton, and then I served in Nampa, and then I served in Parma, and then my last area was Caldwell. And I came home in July of 2015, and I loved all my areas, and I had, I think, 13 companions. So that was cool to kind of get a feel for living with different people and learning how to live with different people. The mission is the southern part of Idaho, on the west side. So if you think of where Boise is, just everything west of that, and then up to the Oregon border that way. So my first area, Middleton, we lived in a duplex just by ourselves, and that was interesting. It was kind of scary. Our neighbors were pretty loud, and it was just me and my companion. And one night we had to go over and ask them to turn down their music because we couldn't go to sleep. I think it was pretty late. But they were really nice people, and they were sorry. But it was nice living on our own, but at the same time, I don't know, it kind of got lonely a little bit. When I moved to Nampa, we lived with a member, and she was amazing. I love her. And her home just felt so comfortable, and we were able to go home and to see how she was doing, and she would love to hear about her day. And we had a kitchen, and we would buy our own food, but she would also offer to make us food sometimes. And it was just nice living in a member's home that had the spirit, and we felt more part of the ward, I think. And there's different experiences. It definitely depends on the members and where you live. I've had both good and bad experiences, and it's just, I don't know, it depends where you are, if it's good or bad. But but you make the best of it. It's up to you to, you're living in someone's home, so you respect their rules, but you also, you realize that they're offering this help for you so that you can do your job. So Sundays we would go to church, and we would usually text all our investigators or call them and remind them to come to church. And we try to find members to bring them. Sometimes that was hard, but we would go. Sometimes we would have two wards, and so we would go to two. And then after that, we would go visit families and our investigators, and sometimes even tracting. And that was our Sundays. And then we would report our numbers from that previous week to our zone leaders of our lessons and how things went, if we're struggling with things, and what we're doing good at. And then Monday, P Day, we would email our families, we would go shopping and do those things that we needed to do for that week. And then that night we would go back out and teach. And then during the week we would continue to do those things, study, tracking, visiting members and less actives and investigators. And then in the morning, one morning we would have district meeting, and that was always fun because we got to visit with the other missionaries and learn new things, new teaching methods, and talk about our struggles and our strengths and what we need help with. And then we would have lunch together, and then we would go back out and do missionary work. Thursdays we would have weekly planning. So that took up our whole morning, and it was either really good or really long. But I loved weekly planning because once you did that, you didn't worry about your upcoming week. You were prepared and you knew what your plans were. We would also have zone meetings where our whole zone would get together, and it's kind of like a district meeting, just more information, and that's where we would get information from our mission president, from our zone leaders who got it from the assistant to the president. And then we would have mission conferences. I think we only had one where the whole mission got together, and that was really neat because we got to see everyone. And I think it was Elder Perry that came, and we all got to shake his hand, and that was really cool to hear him, and him speaking directly to our mission. So that was really cool. Other than that, we didn't have a lot of, you have a lot of meetings, but those were the typical meetings every week. I had the opportunity to serve as a sister training leader, and so we did a lot of exchanges, so I was able to go over to Oregon for a couple of those, but I just served in Idaho, which is fine. I love it. But it's cool to be able to work with a lot of sister missionaries and learn of their struggles and be able to help them, because I had gone through the same thing and worked through them, and I could help them adjust better and figure out problems, and mostly help them to rely on the Spirit more so that they could fulfill their missionary purpose. So as a sister training leader, I kind of think of it as a zone leader in a way, just because you're over a group of missionaries. You don't have the same responsibilities. You don't take numbers or do the administrative things, but you have a group of sisters that you watch over. You go on exchanges with them. You train them. You help them with difficulties that they may be having. And I just loved going on exchanges with sisters because they're all so amazing, and they don't recognize that they have this gift of talking to people or teaching or something that they're amazing at, and then you point it out and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it is a tender mercy, I think, that the Lord gave me to see how many sisters are devoted and have that desire to serve the Lord, and they they truly have that love for all the people that they work with. As a sister training leader, you go to a lot of meetings, and we talk about missionary work all the time, but it's a different level, and you learn so much more. And I think I learned more from the sisters than they learned from me, honestly. And I'm supposed to be the one teaching them, but I learned more from them than I think I taught them. So I had the opportunity to work with a lot of youth on my mission, and there are two distinct people that we taught that I really come to mind. One was in Nampa, his name's Zach, and he was 15, and we were able to teach him, and he was able to be baptized and by his father, and that was really amazing. We were able to go through that whole process with him and helping his parents come back to the church, and he was able to bless and pass the sacrament, and he's still doing great. And the other one is a girl named Daylin, and she was 18, and that was really hard for her because she knew the church was true, but her family was very against it. And so she made that choice to be baptized, and she showed up to her baptism with her truck full with all of her stuff. And so that to me was a real testimony and a dedication to the gospel. And that experience to me really helped strengthen my testimony to see her faith. And so it was really powerful to see the youth so involved and so dedicated to the gospel. So a few sister missionary tips. Weather-wise, if you're used to winter and summer, that's what they have there. Bring a warm coat, boots, socks, gloves, and a cute hat that you can wear. And in the summer, just nice summer clothes. I don't know. So as sister missionaries, there's a rule that you can't teach a single male in his home, and that's for safety reasons. And so what we would usually do is we would grab a member to go with us to the home, or if it seemed pretty unsafe or we didn't feel comfortable going, we would refer them to either the elders or talk with the members more and help them to fellowship that person. But Idaho is pretty safe for sisters. I served in Parma, and that was a little town, and we were the only missionaries there, and we got to know the cop pretty well. And we would, every ward council, he was part of the ward council, we would ask him about certain people, if it was safe to go there or if this area was okay to visit at. And so we used the members a lot to know kind of our area and if it was safe to go places or who to see. But the people there are just super friendly and nice, and it's a pretty safe area. So I know on the MTC they say you got to make it to the first Sunday, until then you really feel like, okay, I can do this. So on the mission field, you got to make it past your first transfer. That was really hard for me. But once you make it there, you understand your purpose and why you're there. A big pointer I would say is to exercise every day. That for me helped me so much, and for us it was 30 minutes a day in the morning before our studies. And it helped me be prepared for the day. It helped me be prepared for studying because my mind would be more awake. And overall, it just helps you be more healthier. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of missionaries struggle with, just because it's not something that is mandatory or like you have to exercise. But it really does help you, and it helps you with your work in every way. It snowed so much one time while I was serving in Parma, and it's funny because the ward members for the stake had a fast for rain because they're in a drought, and so they didn't have any moisture. And so the next couple days it started raining, and then just snow everywhere piled up. And so me and my companion, we went out to work that day, and we lived with members, and their driveway is it's so long, and our car is parked all the way up here, and so we had a hand shovel all the way down the driveway, and later in the day they had a bulldozer kind of clear the roads and everything, but as missionaries you get out pretty early. And so I think that was the craziest weather that we've had. Usually it wasn't that bad, but that I think really was a result of fasting, because they needed the moisture, and then it happened. When I was serving in Middleton, we went to a member's house and rang the doorbell, and you could hear their dog barking. So they opened the door, and it was this little Chihuahua, I think. But he jumps up and he bites my arm, and it was no big deal. But like they didn't even care. So I think usually everyone had dogs. Everyone owned a dog. And so, but that was the craziest thing that I've experienced with an animal. I loved to eat enchiladas on my mission. A lot of members would make us white sauce chicken enchiladas, and that was the best. So for one transfer, 6 weeks, me and my companion were put on bicycles, and that is pretty difficult as a sister, just with skirts. So my first time riding, my skirt got completely dirty, but we got some biking shorts to put under, and we learned how to kind of maneuver with them, and we got helmets, and we would show up at people's houses and be all sweaty, but they would offer us water, and I think it helped them feel for us so that we were able to talk with them. I think the greatest life lesson I learned on my mission was to learn to be compassionate towards people. I learned to put myself in their shoes and to understand where they're coming from. And that, I think, will help me throughout the rest of my life. The hardest thing on my mission would be serving with someone that you didn't quite get along with, but the teaching was off. It was hard to teach because your teaching styles were different. And that was a struggle at the beginning, to learn how to teach with your companion. But I learned that everyone is different, and so you need to learn different skills, and that's going to help me with other interactions in my life. The best mission preparation I would give would be to practice teaching. Practice role-playing. Read Preach My Gospel. That you will use that every day. When I first started out, I hated role-playing, but it really helps so much, and now I love it. And I teach mission prep in my ward now, and it's cool to kind of implement those things that I've learned to my students so that they understand. And so that would be my advice for missionary preparation. One of my favorite scriptures is 1 Nephi 4:6, and I was led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand what to do. And that has helped me through a lot of things on my mission, after my mission, before my mission, just because the Spirit is so important to this life on earth, and just following the Spirit really helps us know where to go. In my last area, we taught a girl, and she was totally prepared. And it was actually a couple outside of the stake that referred us to her. And so we went over one Sunday and met with them, and she was so prepared. And at this time, we were challenged to teach the first lesson and invite the person to be baptized. And so we prepared for this lesson, and we were pretty nervous because it's kind of scary to ask that on the first lesson. But we taught her, and we felt really prompted by the Spirit to ask. And she said yes, and she's like, of course, like, I am ready. I've never had that happen to me before. And so just following the Spirit and listening at that moment, because you don't know what they need, but the Spirit does. So sometimes when it seems, I don't know if they're going to do that, or it's way off topic, listen to the Spirit, because that is what that person needs, and then they're going to recognize that you really are a servant of the Lord because you are in tune with the Spirit and you know what Heavenly Father wants for that person. So in my last area, me and my companion, we're at church, and this guy comes and he just came to check it out, and so we started teaching him, and it turns out he was a conspiracy theorist. And so we would listen to his thoughts, and we would teach him the lessons, and he had his own opinions. But we found a couple members that we trusted to come with us, and they really helped us teach. And I love him. He's so willing to accept truth, and he's a truth seeker, and so he would notice what was truth and what was a conspiracy. And he was baptized a week after I went home, but I don't know, I loved seeing him learn and to realize the gospel and to understand it. And we're still friends, and he actually moved to Utah, so I still need to go visit him. But that was probably one of the most different people that we taught. But he readily accepted the gospel, and he fit right in. I had a lot of good missionary leaders. My zone leaders were always pretty good, and they would pump us up, and it was always fun to see their enthusiasm. And so it made the zone more excited to go out and do missionary work. So they were a big influence on me, and I had a lot of good district leaders as well. And I think our mission president, he was amazing. He implemented so many good things, and you could definitely tell that he was led by the Spirit of who to call and who to put with who. And that is the way I think our mission ran so smoothly, is because it was heavily influenced by the Spirit. You will love serving in Nampa. Anywhere you go on your mission, it's an amazing experience. They say you learn 20 years worth of things in 2 years. And I loved going to Nampa because you meet so many great people. And for me, the culture was pretty the same as where I'm from, but it was still different. And the greatest thing that you can do is to be obedient, because that will keep you on track, that will keep you close to the Spirit. And a lot of the times missionaries might not like you for that, but you will be respected, and they will look up to you. They will go to you for advice because you understand the importance of being obedient to the Lord. You understand your purpose of being a missionary, and you understand how to communicate with the Spirit. That will be your greatest strength. And to just love the people there. Love the people that you serve with, and love the members, and love the people you teach, because they're all children of God. And we have that responsibility to share the gospel with them, because we know that joy and we know what the Spirit feels like. Why wouldn't we want to share it? And so I know you're going to love serving a mission, and it'll be the greatest thing that you've ever done in your life.